Welcome, everyone. If you're a board member, a capital allocator, or a student of strategic policy analysis joining us today, well, you are in exactly the right place. Welcome to this high-level explainer briefing. Today is May 12th, 2026. Now, if you've been actively tracking the European sovereign AI landscape, I know you probably feel this urge to just keep digging, right? Keep looking for more data. But today, we're actually calling a strategic pause. We've hit what we call a saturation point. So we're going to look closely at what we know, what we don't know, and why recognizing the difference between the two is literally the ultimate lesson in editorial and strategic discipline. Okay, let's dive right into this. To respect your time, here is our bottom line upfront agenda. We're going to map the landscape, discuss saturation and editorial discipline, distinguish horizontal from additive work, deliver a 5-point policy memo, and finally map out the operational timeline.
Section 1. The Sovereign AI Landscape, and specifically, the 6 institutional archetypes.
So this entire briefing is heavily grounded in post-labor economist Thorsten Meyer's 10-essay analysis. He's documented 6 distinct institutional archetypes across the continent. And, you really have to notice the massive scale differences here. Look at row 1. Portugal's Amália project operates as this national continuation model at a highly targeted 5.5 million euro scale, and they're hyper-focused on linguistic specialization. Now contrast that with row 4, France's Mistral. This represents the commercial frontier approach, and it's backed by roughly 3 billion euros in venture capital. We've also got Italy's academic-focused Minerva, the Open Euro LLM Pan-European Consortium, Germany's enterprise pivot over with Aleph Alpha, and Switzerland's federal research model with Apertus. The absolute key takeaway here: this evidence base, across all major operational scales and structures, is now comprehensively complete.
But it's not just about those 6 archetypes. The framework also crystallized 4 broader pillars to really complete the picture. We're talking about a synthesis of the overarching portfolio approach, the massive Euro HPC compute substrate that's basically powering everything behind the scenes, the Schwartz Group's industrial anchor model for scaling capital, and finally the Spanish Alia pattern, which strongly confirms that national continuation model. When you put all of this together, we've successfully mapped the operational, infrastructure, capital, and geographic coverage of Europe's entire AI strategy.
Moving right along to Section 2, Saturation and Discipline, knowing when to stop analyzing. For the students of policy analysis in the room, listen up, because this is your core lesson today. Saturation is not failure. It is editorial discipline. This quote from Thorsten Meyer is absolutely the anchor for our strategic pause. The honest strategic decision for allocators and analysts alike right now is to just let this current 10-essay framework breathe through the summer of 2026. So the crucial point is this: the empirical evidence base is substantially complete as of mid-May 2026. Pushing for more analysis right now without any new operational evidence is honestly like trying to build a 7th floor on a 6-story blueprint. You don't get a taller building, you actually just break the structural integrity of the entire analysis. We've analyzed the available data to its absolute limit. Which brings us to Section 3. Horizontal versus additive extensions, the trap of completionism. This brings us to a key strategic distinction that European policymakers absolutely must internalize. What is a horizontal extension? Well, that would mean doing deep dives into corporate giants like Bertelsmann, IKEA, or Bosch. Actually, you know what? Sure, we could deeply analyze IKEA, but unless they're suddenly building large language models out of flat-pack furniture, it merely repeats the industrial anchor model we already established with the Schwartz Group. It's just more the exact same thing. Future additive work, on the other hand, means waiting for genuine structural shifts. We're waiting for external events that literally haven't happened yet to produce fundamentally new findings. And this leads us to what we call the trap of completionism. That is, extending an analytical framework horizontally without producing structurally new findings. Look, whether you're an analyst writing policy briefs or a capital allocator deciding where to place €1 billion, extending horizontally gives you this cozy illusion of progress, but it offers zero new actionable intelligence. It just dilutes the focus. Our editorial discipline dictates we avoid this entirely. All right, Section 4, the immediate policy memo. 5 strategic recommendations. We are shifting gears right now from analysis to directive action. Based on our perfectly saturated evidence base, here is the formal policy memo that major industrial capital allocators and European policymakers need to consider immediately. Step 1. Explicitly recognize partnership architectures in European AI policy. The era of the lone wolf national champion? Yeah, that's ending. Partnership scale. Step 2. Adopt Apertus-style architectural compliance as the reference standard. Just like the Swiss federal research model proved,
Building compliance directly into the technical architecture scales way better and way more reliably than trying to slap these messy policy layer fixes on top after the fact. Moving to step 3. Establish the industrial anchor investment model at scale beyond just Germany, utilizing heavy industrial capital to sustain long-term infrastructure. Step 4 is a big one. Stop pursuing position 1. By that, we mean the absolute bleeding edge of global frontier models. Stop making that a primary strategic objective for every single national project. It's often a massive misallocation of resources when you compare it to targeted, specialized success. And step 5, build a portfolio approach that supports all 6 institutional structures. Structurally speaking, cultivating a diverse ecosystem of all 6 of those models we discussed earlier is vastly superior to trying to pick a single monolithic winner for the entire continent. Finally, section 5, the operational timeline, the look ahead. Okay, so we've established exactly why we must pause the retrospective analysis. Now, we have to pivot forward. Let's move to the future and see how this builds. Returning to the track in Q4 of 2026 is going to produce structurally new findings that our current evidence simply cannot support. The upcoming milestones are exactly why we must sit with the framework right now, let the data ship, and prepare to re-engage only when the reality on the ground actually changes. Let's walk through this timeline with some absolute urgency. Right now, mid-May, we've declared the saturation point. Over the summer, from June to August, those massive AI gigafactory selection decisions are going to ship. Then, August 2nd hits. Boom. The EU AI Act enforcement window opens. By Q4, we'll see real-world operational evidence from the coherent Aleph Alpha integration, along with the Euro HPC Federation platform release. And finally, sliding into late 2026 and 2027, the Apertus domain-specific versions launch. True, additive work becomes possible again only as these 5 external events actually play out. 12. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that 12 is the exact number of weeks we have from today until that massive August 2nd EU AI Act enforcement window officially opens. Just 12 weeks until theoretical policy implementation becomes a hard de facto legal and operational reality for every single model provider in Europe. Which brings us to the final thought for today's explainer briefing. We are pausing the analysis precisely because the real-world test is imminent. The August 2nd window is rapidly approaching. So I leave you with this question. Are your capital allocations ready for the enforcement reality? Sit with the framework, prepare your portfolios, and we will reconvene when the new data ships. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.